Hi everyone, welcome to Wildflowers Sex Q&A. I'm Amy Boyajin, I'm the owner and creator of Wildflower. I'm here to answer all of your questions about sex, sexuality, gender, relationships, and sex toys. So this week we're changing up the format just a little. Instead of addressing one specific question, I'm going to address a theme of questions that I've been getting lately, and that is about lube. So I'm a huge advocate for lube itself. I feel like lube is the difference between having good sex and having great sex in a lot of circumstances. But I get a lot of questions about what lubes to use in certain circumstances and what is safe to use as lube. So first we're going to talk about using different household items and products as lube. Now there is a huge selection of what you can choose around the house to use as a sexual aid. I'm just going to talk about the ones that I've specifically been asked for, or the most popular, as it would be on the internet. And I'm going to address what are the pros and cons of using each. So this might get a little messy. So I'm going to pop my latex gloves on. So the first one that we're going to start off with is probably the most popular when it comes to me being asked about it and online about people talking about it. And that is going to be coconut oil. So there's no wonder that coconut oil has gained popularity over the last couple of years. It's natural, there's no added preservatives. And what's really nice about it as a lubricant is that it lasts longer than most water-based lubes. And it has antifungal properties that can be beneficial for some. The first thing that I would mention about it when it comes being a lube and it being difficult to use is that it's temperature receptive. So right now it's a little colder in here and it's a solid. That can be a little difficult when you're scooping it out. You kind of have to warm it up a little bit and it gets pretty inconsistent when you're using it. Also, the oil in this product is not receptive to latex. So this would actually degrade these latex gloves over time, as well as any barriers that you use like condoms or dental dams. It's also not safe if you're using any kind of soft sex toy like a silicone or a TPR. It's going to damage that toy. When it comes to the pH level of coconut oil, this is where the big debate actually is. The pH level of coconut oil can actually affect the natural pH level of your vagina. This can be beneficial for some people who deal with fluctuations in pH levels, but for most people who are very sensitive, it can actually cause irritations and cause infections, like a yeast infection or BV. It also naturally clogs pores. Some people aren't affected by this, but some people can suffer from ingrown hairs and other types of infections. Not to mention that it can get a little messy, and if you're gonna get it on every fabric, it's probably gonna stain. So, the next I'm gonna talk about is the wildest one, in my opinion, that I was asked about. And I think it has something to do with some awful sex scene with Marlon Brando years ago. But the next one is butter. Now, I would never naturally think about using butter as a lubricant, but I could see where the appeal would be. It's pretty creamy. I guess your natural thought would be that it would taste good. It's pretty soft and malleable to use. And yeah, it's pretty smooth. Thing is, butter is a bacteria fest just waiting to happen. It breeds bacteria and it can naturally get stuck in like the folds of your vagina and your anus, causing all kinds of irritations and infections. Also, dairy products spoil really quickly. So I think there's this sexy idea of like whipped cream during sex, but if you've ever actually tried that, it smells and tastes bad rather quickly. The same with butter. Plus, there's been no actually studies into butter as lubricant, simply because I don't know why anyone would do that study, but there are hormones in most dairy, and hormones can actually affect your own hormones. So if you are sensitive or taking hormones, there could be some correlation between the negative side effects of using dairy products as lubricants. Again, there aren't any key studies into this, but I could see how that would work also. So, I'd probably put the butter away and opt for something else. Next, let's go to, oh, it's getting messy. Let's go to olive oil. So, again, I could see why this would be a great thing to go for. It seems smooth, it's nice and slippery, it's always going to be a liquid, and you know what, most people have this in their household to just grab and use. The thing is with most oils, especially olive oil, is that it spoils really quickly and can go rancid. So oil can be also hard to get out, like as I mentioned, in the crevices of like your vagina, the head around your penis, around your anus. If it gets stuck in there, it can cause irritation as it goes rancid. Also, if you're prone to vaginal infections, this is specifically applies to you. The bacteria that resides inside of an oil can actually affect your bacteria again. Also, you can't use it on latex variants, you can't use it on silicone toys. So I would actually say no go to olive oil. Okay, the next one seems like an obvious one. I think anyone who didn't have access to lubricants as they were growing up probably at some point used lotion. Now, it's easy to come across, it smells good, makes your skin feel good. So it would seem like it would be a safe and natural option to go for. Not necessarily the case. It would be great if it was something for a sensitive skin, if it didn't have any fragrances in, unlike this one. This one has fragrances and smells in it. So that is actually going to affect your pH levels. And also if you have any micro tears around your anus or in your vaginal canal, it's going to sting and burn. So this is a great external lube, I would say, especially for people with penises. But then again, if it has fragrances in it or colors or dyes, it can affect you negatively. So the last one I'm going to talk about is probably the most hotly debated. There's been a lot of people weighing in on this, professionals and such, and it's Crisco. This is the lube of choice for sisters. The first reason being because look at the tub, it's really easy to stick a fist in. It also gets into all those nice crevices. It doesn't run around like a liquid, especially if you're doing something that is going to take a nice long time, like fisting or anal play. It sticks around. It's going to keep working for a very long time. So it is very creamy, like I said, rather than runny, and it lasts longer. Another great thing about this is that it actually is all natural. It has vegetable oils. It's not made of anything too weird. So I've actually heard some gynecologists recommend it for women who are very sensitive. And it also blends really well with existing lubricants. So if you have a lubricant that you like, but you want to make it a little bit thicker, you can actually mix it with Crisco and that will actually make it thicker. So negative side effects again is that it doesn't work with condoms, barriers, or porous or soft toys. So no condoms, no dental dams, no silicone butt plugs or silicone toys. And when I talk about it degrading it, it might not be actually something that you see. Right now it's actually degrading the gloves on my hands. They seem fine, but there could be micro abrasions and just the general safety goes down. These become a little softer and be more prone to tearing, especially if you're using it as a barrier method. It breaks down your chances of the method actually working. Some people say that they have irritations when it comes to Crisco though. Again, this has to do with pH levels. It can be vaginally or anally. It can cause irritations and all different types of bacteria to grow. So there's another thing also about it not being as slippery as other lubes. It's more of a creamy texture. It really depends on what you're using the lube for. That's why it's more prone to be used as an anal lube or as over vaginal lube. But if I was to pick out of all of these ones, I would definitely say use Crisco over anything. But now we're going to talk about what I would actually recommend using as lube. So the next set of questions I get is, what lube do I use for certain circumstances? Ooh, that's messy. So I'm going to give my recommendations on lubes that we carry that you can use for all different types of circumstances. So yes, you can use a lube for every different activity, but some lubes aren't going to be compatible for the toys, for the duration of the play that you want to have, and for keeping things clean. So I always think it's a good idea to have like a little arsenal of lube on your nightstand so you can just grab and go with different activities as they happen. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a masturbation lube. I think the go-to is Good Clean Love Almost Naked. This is a water-based lube, so it's going to be compatible with all the toys that you pick and choose. It's going to be easy to clean, but it is kind of thick like a gel, and it also smells great and it's easy to clean up. The next is an anal lube if you're using toys. I think there's this idea that using a silicone lube for anal is the only option, but you can use a water-based lube that is compatible with your silicone toys. As long as it's thicker like a gel, it tends to last longer. You've heard me talk about it before. It is the Liquid Sassy. It's going to be thicker than water-based lube, most water-based lubes, so it's going to last a little bit longer. Next is the best lube for vaginal health. That is the Liquid Sea. So this has 3 different types of seaweed in it that help HPV, according to some studies, that can help with a natural moisturization and anti-inflammatory. So I definitely recommend this to someone who has a very sensitive vagina, or is, you know, a little bit on the side of safety. The next would be, what is the best flavored lube? I love Liquid Cherry Vanilla. It tastes so good to me. It's not too sugary. It blends really good with the natural taste of someone else's juices, which can be difficult to come across. Sometimes it tastes kind of weird when you start mixing it with someone's cum and natural taste, but this one blends really, really well. And the final question is, if you try all of the lubes and they still burn and they irritate and they cause you infection, what do you use? And that, I would suggest Uber Lube. Uber Lube is made out of just a handful of ingredients, the most importantly being vitamin E oil. It doesn't have any citric acid also. Liquid does contain citric acid. It's used as a preservative, but a natural preservative. A lot of people can be irritated by that. It's almost like a little burning or a stinging sensation. If that happens to you, try Uber Lube. It is silicone based, so it's not going to be compatible with silicone toys, but you can use it with latex condoms and barriers. Okay, so I think we've covered everything when it comes to what you can use in your household for lube and my lube recommendations. I hope you all learned something today. If you have any questions for me, you can submit them via the website. Just click on the Sex Q&A tab and then click on Submit a Question, and I will answer your questions. Thank you, everyone.